Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew Smith. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager here at Leap, and welcome to this replay of Facebook advertising, what you need to know for 2022. Before we start, I'd like to just explain the format. We did this webinar back in October in conjunction with our brand partners, Brand 3. So for this particular replay, I'd like to update the details that we gave on that particular webinar and stop at each of the three main points that we'll cover to enable you to have any questions that you may have for that particular session. So please put those questions in the chat as we go along, and I'll be happy to answer them along the way. If you have any questions in the meantime, then also please feel free to put those in chat. The webinar should take probably 30 minutes or so, give or take the number of questions that we have, and then we can expand it out to any other questions that we didn't cover in the particular sections. Okay, so let's get started. Thank you to everyone that's attending, and we'll kick this off.
So who is Brand 3? Obviously, that's who we mentioned. We are a branding agency. A lot of people don't understand in the marketing space how important your brand is. And your brand really leads you and is the first point of introduction to a new client or a new customer. And it's so important that your brand is consistent and also very clear so that people understand who you are and you stand out from the crowd. So we love to, in our internal culture, we use a lot of sea life analogies. So one of the things that we love about this picture is it's all of these fish, we're all swimming along, which we're all doing as business owners and trying to make it through. And you need.
Okay, seem to have some technical issues here. Show video. Sure. Let's start that again.
Agency. A lot of people don't understand in the marketing space how important your brand is. And your brand really leads you and is the first point of introduction to a new client or a new customer. And it's so important that your brand is consistent and also very clear so that people understand who you are and you stand out from the crowd. So we love to, in our internal culture, we use a lot of sea life analogies. So one of the things that we love about this picture is it's all of these fish, we're all swimming along, which we're all doing as business owners and trying to make it through. And you need to stand out, otherwise no one's going to see you. So we like to think of our clients that we turn them into those little green fish and get them going to where they need to be. HomePro Brands is a new division of Brand 3 that specifically services the home professional industry. We have seen a lot of success with clients through Brand 3 who are in that space, and we really have a passion for working with those business owners and helping them grow from smaller sort of mom and pop establishments to really thriving teams. And it's one of our really big passions is helping them find who they are as a brand and make sure that their marketing speaks to that brand as clearly as possible. And what do we do with business owners? A lot of our process is based on really getting to know what it is about your brand that's special. What makes your business important to you, and also what makes it important to your clients? Why do your clients love you? And then also learning about your clients. to find out who your ideal customer is and making sure that you're using the proper channels to engage with the people who actually want to work with you. So today, we're covering some kind of big changes with Facebook in the past 6 months. If you've been running advertising on Facebook, you may have seen some fluctuations in your results. You may have seen a lot of notifications come through the platform saying, oh, this is changing and this is changing, and make sure you add this. Or maybe you're just getting started and you don't know what to do. Don't worry, we're going to try and help you out. Um, the big thing to know is what the changes are and how it's best to set up your ad account even before you start running in advertising. With some of these changes that have been made in the past year, if you don't have these tools in place before your ads launch, you really are lighting your money on fire and you're not getting the best return on ad spend that you could. We're also going to delve into some of the main campaign types to make sure that you're optimizing for what you need and not just what you want. That's a really important distinction that we're going to delve into a bit later. And then also ad metrics and really breaking down what matters versus what looks good. A lot of times business owners will get into the platform and they'll be looking at all these metrics and there's so many numbers and trying to determine what is important to you and also what's realistic for the ad campaign that you're running. So jumping on in to how Facebook has changed. Emma, are you good to hop in here?
Yes, I am. So, starting with iOS updates, iOS 15 launched in mid September and has had a lot of changes come on along with it. Prior to that, when iOS 14.5 launched earlier this year, Apple rolled out a new app tracking transparency feature, which is also known as ATT, that allowed users to have more control over their privacy. So this basically means that Apple is now requiring advertisers and developers to ask for permission from users before tracking them across other apps and websites. Previously, this was not an issue. A very notable feature of the newest update is to give users more control over how their data is being used. What they refer to as a privacy report card is now given as a summary for apps to help users better see and understand how their data is being used. The purpose of these report cards is to give users insight into which apps are using their data and what for specifically. If you've recently installed iOS 15 and have purchased anything in the App Store, you may have also noticed one of their new features that asks if you would like to receive targeted ads. And before, this was just something where users were automatically opted in. So, with all of these changes combined together, this is creating a lot of new obstacles for advertisers. With these changes in place, it makes it harder to gain a more detailed understanding of the user's behavior. And this makes the advertiser's ability to serve targeted ads and measure their impact inhibited. So, when looking at your ad results, you will notice changes when comparing data from previous months due to this new update. However, with the new features being implemented, your ad results will actually be showing more users who are specifically interested in your brand, your products, or your services.
Awesome. Thanks, Emma. So there are a couple of key setup components that we recommend for all of our clients. And if you don't have these in place, I highly recommend getting these set up as soon as possible, especially if you are already running advertising on Facebook. One of the big ones is domain verification. This is within your Facebook Business Manager under brand safety. And all it is a little piece of code that you can send to your developer and they will attach it to your website. And that basically tells Facebook that your domain is safe for them to send traffic to. Um, and that's a really important one that they have required since iOS 14.5 came out back in April. Another key one that has been around for a while is pixel placement. not only do you need to make sure that your pixel is installed properly on your website, you also need to make sure that it's actually firing. I've had several clients who have said, no, we put it on, it's great, it's working. And then I go and in the back end and I test a couple of things out and it's not there. So make sure that it's on your site and that you're testing any events that you have attached to that pixel before you set your ads live. Another component that Facebook has really been pushing in the past, I would say 3 to 4 months, is their Facebook Conversions API. This is designed to give you a more accurate picture of your conversion results from your ad campaigns. Because of the new iOS updates, as Emma was mentioning, users can opt out from reporting any data back to Facebook. And even if they don't opt out, there is a delay in reporting that didn't used to be there. And the Facebook Conversions API helps with giving you a more accurate sampling. It's not going to be as exact as it used to, but it does help in making sure that your results are not as skewed. And then finally, I think this one is super important. Make sure you have your Google Analytics installed on your site. You can also use Google Tag Manager to help you with your pixel placement for Facebook and your event setup. The other thing I will remind you to do is with Google Analytics and with your Facebook pixel to make sure that they're working well together. Make sure that any events that you've set up on Facebook are also being tracked within Google Analytics so that you can compare your data whenever you're looking at reporting. I would love to tell you that Facebook gives you accurate information 100% of the time. It's always nice to have another source just to back everything up and make sure that you're getting the full picture. If you are not a developer, I highly recommend talking to one to help you set everything up on your website appropriately. If you are looking for recommendations for developers, we would be happy to help you out with that. But it's really, really important, primarily because when you decide what ad campaign you're running, Facebook uses the pixel and the event setup to make sure that they are serving your ad to the people who are most likely to convert or engage in the appropriate event. So if that's never set up right from the beginning, they're never going to do what you want. And Emma, could you take this one? Because this one's also super, super important.
Very important. So everyone on your account should have two-factor authentication set up. When you log into Facebook with your password, you will also have an auto-generated code that will need to be input as well. The code changes each time just to add a further layer of protection to your account, so you won't have to remember a code in addition to your password, since a new one will be sent to your email address each time. And it'll be the same email address that is connected to your Facebook account. So when logging in, you will see something come up that says two-factor authentication required, and it'll then prompt you to enter the code that had just been sent to you. There's also a few other good tools that you can use. The Facebook mobile app is a great tool because there's already a code generator built right into the app, and Google also has a code generator that is trusted as well. They're the two main tools that we would best recommend. And Tab actually has a great but scary example of a client where two-factor authentication was not used, and it really affected their account.
It really did. It was able to successfully get back the accounts of two in the home professional services industry who didn't realize that one of their employees had access to the Facebook account through Business Manager or to their page, and they didn't have two-factor authentication set up. As a result, hackers were able to get in to their Business Manager, get into their ad account, take over their pages, and kick everybody else out. And one client had over $3,600 spent in approximately 36 hours, which was a huge jump for them. And it is quite a journey to get a compromised account back from Facebook. I know two-factor authentication can be a little bit of a pain, but in the long run, it's going to save you so much of a headache than what unfortunately happened to a couple of our clients. So, cautionary tale there for you all. All right. So now,
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there on that particular setup. Does anyone have any questions on setup, the Pixel, Google Tag Manager, Analytics, two-factor authentication? I know from the email I had a question regarding the Pixel and its importance. And what I'd like to say on the Pixel is that the Pixel is to Facebook what Google Analytics is to Google, essentially. So the Pixel enables Facebook to collect data on people that then click through to your website, where they go, how they travel. It enables them to pick up data on the ads that they click through on. It enables you to A/B test new ads, and it helps you reach or get the data for new lookalike audiences when you reach that point where you're trying to expand your expand your reach on Facebook. So great idea to set it up. Make sure that we at Leap here, for example, we use WordPress for our website, and you need to make sure that you have the Facebook plugin on WordPress so that the Pixel is talking to your website, not just on a browser level, but at a server level. So Facebook gets the full details, the full data from your website on that. The iOS situation is quite a huge problem for marketers like us, where essentially consumers are opting out of being tracked, and therefore you don't get the data on those particular people, which makes your advertising less effective and essentially a little more expensive, because you're not sure exactly 100% of the people that you're reaching, and the data that Facebook has gets reduced as well. So from a privacy standpoint, that's great for marketers and business owners that are trying to reach those people. It makes things a little more difficult, but it's not insurmountable, and it shouldn't be too much of a problem. The back end of the developer side, it's pretty easy to do these things. And if you're going to hire someone to manage your Facebook account or your ad account, then you can just add them within the Facebook Business Manager at a certain level that gives them permission to go ahead and do what you need them to do. Always retain control of the account yourself at the top level, and minimize the amount of people, especially employees, who can essentially kick you out. There are far too many instances of disgruntled employees leaving and removing their owners or companies as admins on the account. And to be honest, Facebook is very unhelpful in these situations. They're happy to take your money, but to actually get help is a bit of a problem. And Tav alluded to that in her deck. So try and retain as close control within the admin settings as you can. Okay, now we're going to move on to campaign types. Now you have your account set up, what kind of campaigns you can run. So we'll get that started again.
let's talk campaign setup. What are your options when you're getting started? Emma, take it away.
So first up is defining your campaign goal. Before starting, you'll need to figure out exactly what you want your campaign goal to be. Are you looking to get more leads? Are you looking to get more sales? Or are you looking to promote a new offer? If your goal is to get more leads, this means you will want more people to be able to contact you about your service or your product. If you're looking to get more sales, obviously you want to sell more of your product or service. And if you're looking to promote a new offer, you want more people to see it and be able to utilize it from there. These tend to be the three main campaign goals, and although there are other smaller ones, we focus on these big ones the most. To define your audience, you'll need to know if they already know you. Are they somewhat familiar with your brand? Do they know your brand already and have an established relationship? Or do they not know your brand at all? It's important to define your audience ahead of time so you know exactly who you're trying to reach and what adjustments you'll need in each ad to speak to them. If they already know you, your ad will look a lot different than if they're unaware of your brand or if they're a new customer. How did you pick your audience? So what are we basing this on? When picking an audience, you need to have a clear outline of who you are exactly trying to reach. You also need to know if the audience needs your services or if they just want your services. This is a big difference, and it'll change what your ad will look like depending on if they want or need you. A good example that we like to use is comparing two of our clients. One offers basement waterproofing services and the other offers basement remodeling services. The waterproofing company offers emergency services for when there's heavy rains or storms, and they're a company that is almost always needed quickly and in an emergency, like when your basement is flooding. As for the basement remodeling company, their services are not a dire need and they're classified more as a want. So although someone may really want a new basement quickly, it's not as urgent as someone needing the waterproofing company. So you need to be able to differentiate between the two, because if it's a situation where you have someone who needs your services, it's easier to convert them without a problem. Since this is something that is most likely urgent or an emergency, they're not going to spend as much time searching between different service providers. If your basement is flooding, there's water everywhere, your things are ruined, and you're just really stressed out, it's likely that you'll spend less time searching for a company and pick one of the first ones that you find without doing a ton of deep research. Whereas if you're in need of a remodeling project or demolition project or just a big construction project that's going to be a really big investment for you and take a lot of decision making, this will be a longer path to purchase and you'll spend a lot more time searching. So in these situations, the client feels like they really need to trust you and they really need to know who you are and what you do before choosing your company to work with. That means they'll spend a lot more time deciding who they choose to hire. And overall, these different types of audiences will make a really big difference in how your ads are being received. You also want to be clear in what you want them to do. So once you've defined your campaign goal and you've determined who your audience is, you'll want to be very clear in exactly what you want them to do. Meaning, what is the action you want to take in your ad? And if you're attempting to reach a new audience who doesn't know you, you'll want to use a brand awareness ad. This will allow the user a way to learn who you are and what you do while gaining some brand recognition. This is a necessary step before users actually decide to follow through with anything and convert. Users want to do more research here, and they want to make sure that it's a safe bet before they just jump right into it. If the action you're wanting is to gain more leads, be sure to use a lead generation form, a website form, or a prompt that leads users to get a phone call or an email for one of your service providers. With gaining more leads, unless you're an emergency services brand like the one I had mentioned earlier, you'll most likely also need to use some form of a retargeting list. This can be done through pulling from your Facebook pixel and going back and then checking the traffic to your website, or taking an existing customer list and just creating a lookalike audience from it. So the same thing goes for sales. You'll want to use conversion-based ads, all while making sure that you're consistent with providing a good customer experience from beginning to end, from the time they first view one of your ads to the time that they're officially closing the sale, completing the project, or even after. You want that customer experience to be a good one. You can even ask for reviews and recommendations after the service to help you with that newer audience, and it will also help give you more credibility and help you to gain some authority in your service or product area. It also helps boost you in your Facebook ads since you have more reviews and a better reputation score already established. So although there are more options when it comes to choosing what exactly you want your campaign to do. Brand awareness, lead generation, and conversion are the three main ones that we will normally recommend. It's important to understand that these different campaign types do not all have the same outcome. For example, if you're using a brand awareness campaign, you won't see a direct increase in sales coming in. This campaign is going to help build your brand, make you more recognizable, and help customers better understand who you are. Although it might help you get sales after all this is established, its purposeful outcome is to build brand recognition and credibility within that marketplace. Another important thing to note is that some campaigns have different costs. So typically brand awareness is cheaper and it's based on the number of times the ad appears. But if your goal is to generate sales, a brand awareness campaign is not a good option. It will not convert and it will not give you the outcome you need. So remember that when you select these options, Facebook is optimizing to the people who are most likely to perform this action. Go to the next slide. Oh, you're still on mute, Tav.
Thank you. All right, so let's talk.
Okay, let's pause there and see if we have any questions on that. This is really the main sort of meat and potatoes of the webinar of, okay, you've set up your account. What are you actually trying to do with it? Are you a local company just looking to expand awareness of your brand? Is your audience in need of your services immediately, or is something that could be looked at later? And the campaign structure that you want to set up. So for example, here at Leap, we run different campaigns based on that. A lot of people have never heard of this, so we will run a brand awareness campaign tailored at an audience that doesn't know about us, hasn't heard about us, based on interests, location. People that view that, respond to that, or look at that, we will then use the Facebook pixel to collate that audience and use a retargeting audience so that we essentially then move those people that have seen the brand awareness down into the consideration phase, where they may be interested in more information on Leap, or they're looking at additional resources that we have, but they're not necessarily ready to look at us or get a demo or purchase. So for your business, brand awareness, if you already have a good brand and you're just looking for leads from your audience, then a lead campaign is the way to go. What we've found is that if you leave the form fill actually on Facebook, so you keep people on Facebook rather than directing them out to your website or a specific landing page, you get slightly better results that way, primarily because most of the people that will do this will be on mobile, and it becomes a lot easier for them just to fill out the form from their pre-filled Facebook profile on their phone than it is the other way around. I will say that in the next month or so, Facebook is about to roll out an easier interface for you to define what you actually want to achieve with their ads. So they're sort of cutting down the options and making it a little easier for you to decide what you want to do, the audience you want to reach, and what you want to do. The algorithm is very good at finding the audience that you want to reach. Facebook has been running for so many years, and so many, literally billions of people. The amount of data they have on all of us is literally quite astounding. So it's not so much the audience that is the problem, it's the content that you want to put in front of them, how you create that content, and the reaction of your audience to that content. So if you're just sort of starting out or you're in the middle, then content is really the most important part of this. And how you create that content, how you message it is the scenario that we get the better results on that. Any questions in the chat on campaigns and what they're trying to achieve? Nice. No questions. Okay. All right. Moving on to the metrics. having done, in terms of the forms, we do have a question. How many questions is too many? I think the default uh, is really name. You can either do name or full name or first name, last name, email, phone number. So it really four is roughly enough. Obviously, you need enough details to be able to contact this person or at least research them. And if you want to go a little further, quite a lot of people, what we've found, for example, is not a lot of people will have their full company information on their Facebook profile. So name, email, phone number is really the minimum sort of that you need to at least do some research on that. If you're more on a general contractor side, then maybe you would add either city or state, zip. But really, if you're looking at whatever your sales team needs as a minimum to be able to get hold of this person, or at least do some research to add that details or to add those details, is something that you should test. So you can create different forms. So if you're doing a couple of different ads, put one with a slightly longer form with more details and one with just the bare minimum, and see which one works better and whether or not your sales or you as the owner can develop enough information to be able to get hold of that person. So testing is the answer to most of these questions of what is this, what is that. Facebook is a decent platform where you're able to test different variations of things. Okay, let us move on to metrics. Press the button. There you go.
Talk about ad metrics. If you've ever been into the back end of Facebook, I know you've seen all of the options and it can all get very, very overwhelming. So what matters depends on what type of campaign you are running. The ones that Emma mentioned, a traffic campaign, you're going to want to look at not only the numbers within Facebook, but checking on your Google Analytics. Did you actually get more visitors to your website during that time frame when you were running your Facebook ads? If you were running lead generation, did you get more form fills? You can use a form both within the Facebook platform or a form on your website to get new leads. You'd want to make sure that you're actually getting those. And for sales, you want to know if you got any conversions. Did any of those leads that you got in actually convert to appointments or purchasing of your services? Did they actually go through to completion? We all know that not all leads are qualified and they're not all going to come through and say, yes, I'm ready, let's go. But it's really good to make sure you're looking back at that data to get a good idea of whether your ad spend is actually working. So tracking your sales from the lead source that they're coming from all the way through the process is going to be super important for you to get the most accurate picture of your ad spend return. So if you're working with an agency who does Facebook advertising, a lot of times they report on what looks nice. What's your click-through rate? How many clicks did your ads generate? And what leads did you get? And that all looks really great and can be indicative of an ad that performed well within the Facebook ecosystem. But what matters to you as a business owner is entirely different. If you have a bunch of clicks, but none of them actually filled out a form or called you, that's a lot of money that you just spent that isn't being returned to you through sales. If it was the brand awareness campaign and a website traffic campaign, that's okay. We're building that retargeting audience and we're going to get back to them. But if it was a lead driven campaign and you're still not getting those leads coming through, you're going to want to go back and say, what's going on? Where's the disconnect? And also, as I was saying earlier, with leads, even the ones that you're getting in through your website, they're not always qualified. So you need to make sure that when you're looking at your return on ad spend that you're looking at not only what the results are from Facebook or Google Analytics, but also what you actually received in appointments set, in jobs sold, and projects completed, so that you have a more accurate picture of your return on ad spend. We have a client who does this very well using their CRM. They track each customer from when they set that first appointment, or when they call, or when they fill out a form, all the way through the sales process. And they credit whatever lead source the client, their new customer, has given them. So they ask them on every single call, how did you hear about us? And they make a note. If you're getting leads coming in through Facebook, it's really easy for you to just be like, oh, Facebook, we know. But sometimes you can get calls from people who are like, oh, I saw your ad on Facebook. And that's another nice way to track it. And then you can actually go through and you can find out, okay, of those people who have said that they heard about us on Facebook, or that we know we got from Facebook, how many of those turned into appointments? And then they track how many appointments they set. And then they track how many projects they demonstrated. And then they track how many actually turned into closed sales. So by that process, they're able to get a really accurate picture of their return on ad spend based on each different source. So it's especially helpful if you're putting out marketing in multiple channels, just to really see what's working the best for you. I know we're talking a lot of Facebook today, but we all know that Facebook isn't the only dog in town. So make sure that you're getting a good picture of where your leads are actually coming from and if they're actually turning into sales for you. All right, so let's run through a little quick recap here. So when you're setting up your campaigns, to make sure that they're accurate from the start, set up your conversion tracking, be sure to test it, and make sure it's working throughout your campaigns. Sometimes I've had wonky things happen where things will be working and then they'll not working, like a formal break. Somebody will have updated the website and updated a plugin and now everything's broken. So just make sure everything's working. Make sure that everyone in your account who has access to your page and your ad account has two-factor authentication set up. And also, don't just rely on what Facebook's telling you. Make sure you're using Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager. And for a more accurate picture of your conversions, be sure to install the Facebook Conversions API on your website. And Emma, if you want to take this one.
Yep. So know your campaign type and be able to set a realistic goal. So remember, new audiences need that brand awareness before they can do anything. Your audience needs to be familiar with you, they need to trust you, and they need to be comfortable with you before they go any further and you can convert them. Build brand awareness first when dealing with a new audience instead of a different type of conversion or anything. Just brand awareness is always first. Retargeted audiences respond well to lead generation and conversions. And then lastly, keep your customer experience a positive one throughout. So from start to finish, the first time they see your ad until the very last interaction you have, and even after that, the customer should always have a consistent and a positive experience with you.
And then once you've had your ads run and you're pulling your reporting, make sure you're checking your performance based on your campaign type. Big mistake that I see, and I think Emma mentioned as well, is somebody setting up a brand awareness campaign just to get their name out there, get in front of more people, and then they get mad because they didn't get any direct sales from the campaign. And it is frustrating because you are investing a lot of money and you want to definitely have that need to make sure it's actually working. And brand awareness is a little bit of a tricky one, but just keep in mind that a Facebook ad that is optimizing for brand awareness is not optimizing for conversion. So if you're looking at for conversion results from that type of an ad, you're not going to see that. Make sure you cross-checked all of your data with Google Analytics and also with your sales numbers. And remember that your path to purchase is not the same as small retail. Unfortunately, there are so many resources that are out there through Facebook that are specifically targeted towards small retail and not the home services industry. And so they have all these great ideas, and some of them can be applied, but some of them are for things that are like $25 t-shirts. They're not for potentially thousands and thousands of dollars in remodeling work or additions or big ticket items. So try to have patience and understand that it's not going to be a quick conversion. And you may even want to look at even removing Facebook from the equation and thinking, when I talk to a client first, how long does it take them from that first point of contact before they actually decide that they're going to purchase from me? Is it quick? Does it take them a few weeks? Does it take them a few months? Do they call back and say, oh, I found somebody else who was cheaper? And just kind of keep track of roughly how long it takes someone to convert. And that'll give you a better idea of how accurate and how effective your Facebook ads are going. So if you know that you are in your particular company doesn't usually close sales right away, that it's a longer time. For example, our basement remodeling company, for them, sometimes the sales process can take up to 6 months because families are deciding, they're pulling money together, some are taking out loans, they're just trying to get all their ducks in a row. So they understand that they're not going to see an ad on Facebook, call the next day, book it, and be ready to go. So just keep that in mind and try and be patient with yourself there. All right. Are there any questions for us?
So let's go back. Are there any questions on that presentation or anything Facebook related? Troy and Maisha asked, how do you find the person that will work on what matters, not what looks good? There is obviously a concern hiring someone that is going to spend your money on a subject you may not be 100% familiar with. So I think having been on sort of both sides of the fence with this, having worked on an agency, having owned a small company, and now working for a client, I think trying to find a referral is a good way to go. If you see an ad of something on your feed that you like, for example, you can go to the company page and see the ads that they run. Most of those companies will probably have a link to the people that they use on the agency side on their website somewhere on their sitemap, or try and look in your local area for specifically either freelance Facebook people. There are people that will just do Facebook ads that are very skilled at that. And get references, get 2 or 3 references, get not the vanity metrics of click through and clicks, but what was your return on advertising spend for the clients that you're working with? How many appointments have you generated or leads generated? And benchmark that and see and interview them. Get your sort of gut feeling as well as to what that person is. That's my advice on that. Any other questions on that today? Greg asked, what other social media platforms complement Facebook for brand awareness? Instagram would be the one that would be the most complementary on to Facebook, A, because it's part of the platform, and B, you can create ads and add it to Instagram feed stories or reels as part of your ad as part of your ad creative, so you don't need to do that twice. Generally, if you're going to create content for a Facebook ad, I would leave it purely for Facebook. Most of the platforms get, like TikTok, for example, doesn't really like repackaged Facebook videos. So again, it's all about content and creating content for each of the individual platforms. So the dimensions are correct, the length is direct, the audience is correct. So the content will be slightly different for each of those platforms. So if we do something, for example, on LinkedIn or Google or Facebook, then we do something slightly different on each, so that they are their own individual pieces of content. Any thoughts on YouTube? And please ignore if you covered this. YouTube is also a good source of leads once you've established some content that works, or that you have enough of a YouTube presence that makes it possible. And YouTube obviously is allied with Google, not Facebook. So you can add YouTube. For example, we have a bunch of content on our YouTube. We've got our webinars, our podcasts, some culture videos on there. And so we add that to our Google PPC, so the people that watch YouTube a lot, we're in front of those people. I would say that it's not as effective as Facebook or Google individually, or Instagram per se. So it's a more advanced area of spend. I think if you build the platform of your audience, get some results on the content, and then expand that out. But I wouldn't try that essentially from the beginning until you've got some results from what you've actually been doing. Any other Q&A? Is Nextdoor becoming a good lead source? It is indeed. We actually just put up a blog post, which you can find on our blog, I think actually yesterday. Our VP of Marketing, Shashi, did an interview, and Nextdoor is actually a great set of leads, a great platform for lead generation. So if you want to head over to leadtodigital.com and look at that blog post, I think it's like 5-minute video, that short video, 3 ways that you can enhance your lead gen, and how to do that on Nextdoor, he explains on there. So there we go. Greg asked, how do we know the demographics of the people actually viewing us on Facebook? Well, as I alluded to earlier, I mean, I've been on Facebook since 2008. So Facebook has 14 years of data on me, from birthdays, locations, what I like, what I view. So they know as much about you as literally anybody. So even if you're not on the app and you're signed into Facebook, then they are still tracking you across the digital web. So the demographics, when you say you only want to reach people in state A, in city A, with an interest in this, that is age range from this to this, that's married, that has X amount of children, then yes, they will very much be able to give you that audience, just for the sheer amount of data that they have. And of course, they have a vested interest in making sure that data is accurate, because they want to take your money, and so to take your money, they need to put the ads and what you're trying to achieve in front of the right people. So yes, though Facebook and Google are the big sort of data giants out there, and you can be pretty sure that the demographics of the people you want to reach, you will reach them on Facebook and Google. You're welcome. Okay. I wanted to launch a little poll. just in case you are interested in a demo of Leap after this Q&A finishes. I'll get that set up for you. This video, or the existing webinar is on our YouTube channel, and once this webinar ends, I'll I'll post this also to YouTube, and then I'll send you the link to this, along with a copy of our free Facebook resources ebook that you can use for that. And I'll be happy to put my email in there. And if you have any questions in the meantime, please drop me a line. We're always happy to help. I want to say a big thank you to my team internally for getting this webinar organized today. We appreciate you taking your time out of your busy day on a cold Tuesday afternoon to listen to this. The webinar, as I said, will be uploaded to YouTube after some editing, and then I'll email you the link out for that. You can also check out the resources tab on our website for more learning tools, our other webinars, ebooks, podcasts, etc. And if you said you wanted to learn more about Leap, our team will reach out to you soon. Unless there's any other questions, I want to say thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for attending, and we'll see you next time.